Oh my goodness. It is Sylvanas League Championship season. It is going to be fantastic. It is going to be intense. It is probably not going to involve a paladin and warlock in some way. I'm not sure, but we will find out. We have a fantastic set of matches set for you. My name is Brasky. I am joined by the one and only Andy Rogers, rocking the Homer Simpson avatar. We have Cody versus Jimphilos. It's Booty Sweat versus Tollywag Disciples. Andy Rogers, this is going to be the start of a fantastic finals, don't you think?
I'm excited. I'm as excited as I've been in a long time for some last hero standing, which personally is like my least favorite format. But coming into this week, I'm super excited to see what these guys have and who will pull it out between Booty Sweat and Tallywag.
You know, Tallywags do not like to usually pull out against Booty Sweat, but it's when it comes to the finals, anything can happen. That's going to be the big key for this matchup. And you talk about the last year standing format. It is a very interesting format, and ever since the balance changes happened, and we've seen the meta reports come out, the tournament meta comes out. Everyone has their own theories about what's going to happen, who's going to do what, who's going to bring what decks, who's going to go against the meta in that certain way. And I think there's something to the bans that we have seen between these two players. So, Andy, what are the matchups these two competitors are bringing in? Who has banned what so far?
So we have Jimphilos has banned Cody's Paladin, and Cody has banned Jimphilos' Warlock. What that typically says to me is that Jimphilos is bringing Secrets Mage, does not want it to be countered by the obvious Paladin. On the other side, Cody, he's probably bringing Innerfire Combo Priest and possibly maybe even a Control Mage, but I mean, you just a lot of times you just ban Warlock because that's the best class, and that's the strongest deck right now. So you just don't want to play the strongest deck. And in a format like Last Hero Standing, when you have one or two counter decks to that best deck, if you lose that counter game, then you're done. Then you're going to have to face an uphill battle the whole way.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing I find between the Conquest format and Last Hero Standing is that in Conquest, a lot of times I see people like straight up targeting Warlock. Because all you need is one win with each class, and you can just target Warlock to the bejesus, really. I mean, you can just sit there and say, I'm going to bring all these off-meta decks that can target Warlock. I'm going to lose to everything else. I don't care. I can beat either a Cube Warlock or a Control Warlock.
Or or you go the opposite way and you say, you know what? If he gets one win with Warlock, that's fine. I'm going to win with my other decks because they can
Absolutely.
beat his other matchups.
And at the same point, you see a paladin ban. That means that they are scared of aggro taking over, which means they either are playing aggro tempo focused decks themselves because dude paladin basically just overruns all of them, or at the same time they could sit there and say if you get rid of that one overpowered aggro paladin or the dude paladin or the murloc paladin, whatever it is, it really lets you focus in your lineup to be a little bit more balanced, so you don't have to worry about one overpowered deck just kind of taking over for you. That said, you do leave Warlock open, and while Control Warlock certainly has its weaknesses, Cube Warlock at the same time, and even Zoo to a certain extent, just has that ability to overtake the game. They can just high roll anytime they want to, and they can sweep at a moment's notice. So it's interesting to me that Jimphilos has banned the Paladin in that respect in this specific format. But I think that the one thing that we heard about in Tavern Talk before this was that this is a matchup between some of the bottom seeds, some of the 5 seeds of these two teams. Cody comes in a 326 PR, which is absolutely insane for the seeding that he is at, while Jimphilos for Tellyweg's Disciples is at a 198 PR as well. This is the first of 5 Sylvanas League Championship Series. Cody, of course, was 5-3 this season, while Jimphilos was 4-5. So it's fairly evenly matched opponents. And, there isn't one opponent you'd say, well, obviously one is favored over the other. But in my opinion, this might, a lot of people think this might be the match of the entire finals right here. Like, this will set the tone for the rest of the finals going forward. Do you have that same feeling, Andy?
It's big, you look at your top seeds to trade off, and and it's hard sometimes to read those ones. Those bottom seed points those are massive. You know, like you kind of your top seeds, they can get you your points, but if you can consistently win those bottom seed games, that's what really pushes you. And I think both teams, you know, showed strong play from their bottom seeds throughout the season, and that's why they're here in the championship. So
Over and over and over again, we've seen the 4 and 5 seeds really mean the difference between a competitor and a playoff team, and from a playoff team to a champion. So we will get started here in just a moment. You will have Jimphilos at the bottom of your screen. You will have Cody at the top of your screen. And as soon as we get these competitors into their challenge screens, well, they're already in the challenge screens, but as soon as we get them ready to roll, you will see between both of these players just exactly how this finals of the Sylvanas League is going to play out. I know I am excited. I hope you are as well. And Andy, if you were going into a conquest or a last year standing format like this, what would you start off with each of these players?
You know, if you're Cody, you probably start with the Warlock. You know, I would be surprised that he left it up if I was him, and that's probably what I would lead with. If you're a very smart player, then Jimphilos is bringing something special, and he knows that, and he's ready to counter that Warlock with something. Either he's being something like Big Priest, he's ready to counter it, or he's ready for that. Or he's just, you know, hoping that he can push his way through. But it's probably what I would lead with.
Absolutely. It looks like our players are just getting into the challenge arena themselves. So let's move on to the Priest versus Priest mirror match. So right away we see, for Jimphilos, I see Twilight Drakes, Cabal Talon Priests. I see a lot of different things right now, but the one thing I will say about this is that another Spite Historian Talon Priest, this looks to be the beginnings of a Spiteful deck, but it still can be any other of the big Druid combos that we've seen so far.
Priest combos.
Yeah, the Priest combos. I'm sorry. I don't know where I am.
No,
I just always plan.
Druid combo anymore.
Every time I see some type of large statted health minions, I always think it's Druid to begin with.
Well, definitely on Cody's side, this is either Control Dragon, because we did see the Shadow Word Horror, or it could possibly be the Inner Fire combo. I would probably lean more towards just a Control Dragon Priest, because the Inner Fire combo Priest tends to not play things like Shadow Horror, and they don't always play Curious Glimmerrod either.
Meanwhile, on Jimphilos' side, we have discovered exactly what this priest deck is. After you see the Spiteful Summoner, you can pretty easily assume what is going to happen after that. Now, here's the thing. Between a combo priest, if this is what Cody is running, if he's not running just a straight-up control priest as well, between a Spiteful Summoner priest, this is a really good curve for Jimphilos. He's got a fantastic curve to start with, but really, you need to control the health of your opponent's minions if you are running into a combo priest. If you're running into a control
priest. Grab
priest,
the Deathwing or Draconin Operative.
You know,
Dustbreaker. All three of them. Yeah, Operative's probably the most sensible of the choices.
You got to figure this is a value matchup, and you probably get the most value out of dropping a 5-mana 5/6 and look at your opponent's deck.
Yeah, and there's especially that in a deck that doesn't play any kind of spells, you're going to grab some type of a spell, either a heal buff or hopefully even maybe a Psychic Scream if you get behind. So it can be a big pickup.
Meanwhile, Cody goes full Northshire, which is a very interesting development on that end. Obviously, if things turn the way they might turn, Jimphilos could roundabout, mill Cody this way, because there's not a great way for Cody to really get rid of his minions unless he's going to throw one of these Northshires into that Cabal Talon Priest as well.
The one advantage, and Cody is breaking the famous rule of you never double Northshire as a priest. Although against a Spiteful Priest, if he knows that it's Spiteful Priest, he doesn't know yet. That's really dangerous to do because he could be milled. Although the Spiteful Priest probably not going to be able to mill you. I mean, at most he can make you draw 2 cards. That's about it, though.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct about that, Andy. Right now, both these competitors are trying to feel each other out, in so to speak. They're just like, who is running what so far? Because so far we have seen Curious Glimmerroots, we have seen Cabal Talon Priest. Nothing about these card choices so far really delineates from any of the 3 priest archetypes.
Well, Jimphilos would know because he did see the Power Word Shield come down onto the first Northshire Cleric. And now that he sees the Potion of Madness, he's going to know that this is some type of control priest, that it's not spiteful for sure.
Duskbreaker comes down for Jimphilos, so he has the opportunity to completely clear this board and take over the board advantage with an okay statted 3/3. But it's nice to just remove all of your opponent's minions, drop down a 3/3, and say to that control priest, your turn.
Yeah, and it's going to prevent those Northshires from drawing any more cards. So, pretty good clear up for him.
Another Spite Historian, the quick pick by Cody right there. Obviously, this is going to be a value matchup between the two. Jimphilos has saved the coin, I believe, for this spot. He obviously can drop down a Drac OP and search through his opponent's deck for answers that he wants to. But, at this stage of the game, is there any harm to just going coin Spiteful, see what you get?
No, yeah, you want to play it as quickly as possible. You want to get that 10-10, you want to get that, that's 8-drop, that 10-drop out on the board as early as possible, hoping that your opponent hasn't drawn the answer to it.
The Spiteful Summoner of the Tallywag's Disciples is looking for a big minion and gets the Charged Devil Sword.
Pretty good. It's not too bad.
Not too bad, but at the same point, there's a Duskbreaker sitting here for Cody that can remove a whole bunch of impending damage from Tallywag's Disciples and Jimphilos right here.
It's pretty good value, though. You pick up a clear on the 5/6 there from your 6 drop. So not too bad.
Another snap pick from Cody, picking the Drac OP. Probably the sensible choice, knowing you don't really want to discard your entire hand with a Deathwing. It probably gives you time. You probably have the opportunity to, each one of these opponents has another Nether Spike to possibly discover that Deathwing at a future point. But right now, you don't feel like you need that panic switch.
Yeah, you're not too worried. You might just keep it, just in the back of you keep it to the side of your deck and hope that you don't need it, because it is kind of the ultimate sort of trump card. That you can play out. Your opponent might not be expecting it. They play into it, and you kind of get away with it. The one thing for Cody, though, is that you do know that deck does play mind controls, and that is the ultimate counter to a Deathwing. It pretty much destroys the entire game.
Now look at Jimphilos. Drops down the 4/7 Twilight Drake. He had an opportunity to go with Duskbreaker, clear the board out, drop a Shadow Ascendant, and make a 4/4 and a 2/2. Decides to go against it. And now we see a great value trade here by Cody. Completely clears the board, develops a 5/5 on top of it. Now Jimphilos, the onus is on him to respond to what's happening.
Yeah, he has the Amber, but can't play it right now. Probably just a Draken turn, look to see what you can get. I wonder if you also buff it up. Probably not.
Another Spite Historian plus Duskbreaker comes down. Shadowword Horror, not a lot of things you can touch with that, especially when you don't have many small spells like a pint-sized potion to go with it. But still taking his time to decide what he wants to do between these 3 choices. It seems like Nether Spite would be the obvious choice for the value, but he goes with the Duskbreaker here.
Duskbreaker.
What do you think is the reasoning behind taking the Duskbreaker here? Does he just want to develop more minions for a little bit cheaper cost and feel like he can take the aggressive spot at this point? Or does he look that he has a free from Amber on 8, he's got a mind control in hand as well? Does he think he can just win the value game anyway?
Well, the deck lacks a lot of board clears. So if you're not ahead on board, how do you catch up? And so you want to draw a lot of times as many Duskbreakers because they are board clear. If you can get more of them, your opponent's not expecting. So that's probably his thinking in taking the Duskbreaker, is that, if I lose control of the board, this is going to help me fight back for it.
Such an interesting mirror matchup when you have this spiteful priest that is very value centric against a control priest that is almost equally so, but still just plays up the idea that it just wants to remove as many things as possible or take them from you in some way, shape, or form. You have to think that the game has gone on this long. The first spiteful summoner has not swung the game over to Jimphilos' way. So if you are a member of the Tallywags Disciples at this point, how do you think that your teammate is going to win this game, knowing that the longer this game goes on, the more Cody probably is favored to win?
I mean, you have to hope that you hit
a Deathwing?
big minions. You can go for a Deathwing here. It's not going to go off, but a 12-12 on the board it's never bad. That's nothing to scoff at. It will be countered here by the end of the cards. Oh, he does go for the 4-12.
He goes for the Sleepy Dragon. The Sleepy Dragon, of course. The Sleepy Dragon comes out because he's very sleepy. But the Sleepy Dragon, a 4-tech, big health minion, of course, usually is great against a priest, but not when that minion gets taken by the Cabal.
This is huge. That's a giant swing here, and I mean, this is where, he's going to have to double Dustbreaker to come back on the board, which is probably why he took it. But
look at this.
I think he needs to draw another dragon, because, so he can only single Dustbreaker right now, because he doesn't have the second dragon. And the one Dustbreaker is not going to do much.
Well, there's a few options that can happen right here. You can go Cabal Songstealer, maybe silence that 4-12, take down the health of a certain minion, and try to clear with a Dustbreaker if you want to. You can put up a Tar Creeper with a Shadow Ascendant, see what it buffs, and then its own spot.
You're still dead on board. You're still dead on board if you do that. Because you're not healing, and you're only taking 6 power off the board, and there's 14 coming back at you.
And that's just how much value this control priest can have. It can honestly be overwhelmed a little bit in decks that have a lot of reload, decks that have OTK possibilities as well. But when you get into a value battle with a control priest, especially in last hero standing, it's gonna be a downhill battle from there.
And this is going to be game because, that's 14 damage coming right back at him. So, he needed to draw a second dragon there with the double Dustbreaker to clear enough power off of the board. But not going to happen, and Jimphilos is going to go down one game here. Cody's got his control dragon priest.
Yeah, it's interesting to me to see that control priest can be very, very dangerous in a last hero standing format, in my opinion. I think it is something that you really have to be careful. You have to have a counter for it. You have to have some way to answer that style of deck. If you were planning on going against the control priest and knowing that you have at the same time a mage and a paladin to go against it, what are you bringing to go up against the control priest?
In that case, I probably would look to go with my mage. That control priest does so good against paladin, and now if I'm Jim, I'm really worried because that was my best chance of getting a win against that deck. And now I really have to hope that I can kind of overwhelm him in the early game and push out to an insurmountable lead that, when he is able to recover, I've already locked up the game by that point. That's what he's going to have to hope for, and he's going to be on Dude Paladin. So with the Norse Cleric in the opening hand, that's already a pretty good start for Cody. So.
And that's not a great start for Jimphilos. When you get a 7, a 5, a 3, and a 4 drop in a Dude Paladin, you're gonna. It feels bad.
That's a little bit strange why he threw away the Knife Juggler. You'd think that you would keep the 2 drop.
Well, you could think that you just want another heavy drop from Jimphilos as well. It just feels bad that, obviously I can see the reasoning by why you hold and toss away the Knife Juggler. It's because, one, you want to avoid it getting Potion of Madness to against you. At the same point, you really want to pull that Knife Juggler out of a Call to Arms. And even in certain senses, you just want a hard mulligan for Call to Arms. But at this point, when you mulliganed 3 cards, hoping that you can get a 1, a 2, or a 3, or something of that nature, and you get back huge cards in hand. Obviously, this Rounding Blade has the opportunity to take out a Northshire, and maybe you can develop past that. But this is a really tough start for Jimphilos.
Anytime you're an aggro deck and your opening hand is mana, are very sad. He's gonna play. Well, he's gonna play into this Northshire. He's got dropping 2 minions. I guess the plan is to follow up with the Stegodon. Hope that he takes off the shield. I guess he could also go with the blade, but probably I would imagine you would play Stegodon.
So if you're Cody and knowing that you haven't seen your opponent's deck, but now you see an Argent Squire and a tap, you know your opponent's deck is pretty clunky, but you're going into turn 4, so you might assume that a Call to Arms is coming after this. So maybe you don't take out a lot of the board knowing that you have a Shadow Word Horror on top of it, but you just want to contest it with a decently statted minion with some value, like a Curious Glimmerroot on top of that.
It looks like he's going to draw, and I don't blame him. It's you don't feel to be very scared right now. You have the Shadow Word Horror.
And
You're in a pretty good position.
Even on top of that, that's your only board clear, this Shadow Word right now. So you draw, look for a Duskbreaker, try to find some other AoE, because you can clear the board once, but with the Dude Paladin, it's not whether or not you clear the board once. It's whether or not you can clear it a second, third, even a fourth or fifth time that determines whether or not you win this matchup.
In his case, he just wants to put down as big a minion as possible. Which I imagine you coin out the first of these operatives. See what you grab. Well, I guess he's thinking about the visions, but yeah, operative putting a 5/6 on the board is just never a bad idea, especially on turn 4.
Especially when there's not that much damage on your opponent's side. Secret Agent comes through, finds Divine Favor, Direwolf Alpha, and Unidentified Maul.
For sure.
Maul is a
+1 attack. Yeah.
Blessed Maul is what he gets.
Not the best. For aggro, that's like the one you always want. Of course, I always get the stupid taunt one.
So now it comes down to Jimphilos. He's going to fill up the board with a bunch of 1/1s right here. Plays right into Shadow Word Horror, but at some point you just need to fill the board up and coax, almost just really put a bunch of tokens out there, coax out these board clears from your opponent, and just find that one big swing turn that you can just close the game out.
Yeah, this one's going to get punished, but what does he have on reload? So he's probably going to drop first of the Stewards, and then probably play the Argent Squire, get another Divine Shield 1/1.
I still just
want to keep things down because he does have Skykeeper Tarim, and that's a really big swing card in any of these matchups, especially if you can get ahead of minions on the board. Even if your opponent's playing big minions, Skykeeper Tarim is so good.
Wow. Of the 11 minions that cost 2 or less inside of Jimphilos' deck, he drew 2 in his first 9 cards.
That's pretty bad. You're not feeling the cards are against you today in this sense, but he's still not out of it yet. There's still some plays that he could do. He's got Skykeeper. He's got the 7-mana Vine Cleaver that he can put some dudes down. And if he ever draws, the ultimate equalizer, which is Divine Favor, he's right back in it. You can... The Dude Paladin never goes away. It's just kind of, until it draws out its entire deck, you think you can get ahead of them, but they will just keep coming if they can get the right cards.
Absolutely. At the same point, interesting that he doesn't throw that 3 attack damage into the face, knowing that maybe he doesn't go Vine Cleaver on turn 7. He wants to figure out what he wants to use to this weapon. Obviously, the Sunkeeper could be a good value play for him as well. And of course, he still has the chance to, find that Call to Arms, find the, a Light Fuse Stegodon that can buff at least 1 minion. But at the same point, he's got to start finding ways, maybe it's something that just a Divine Favor into a bunch of your tiny cards. That's kind of what he needs right now. He needs to find a way to just keep building his board up after board clear, and hope that when he finally drops that big play, it doesn't get mind controlled away from him.
Yeah, you're not too worried about mind. Ooh, Skykeeper Tarim. It's not as good for the priest here. You already have a lot of minions that are better than 3/3s, so...
That's a question right there. Obviously, it was the correct pick. It was correct in the assertion that you knew that was in your opponent's deck, the Sunkeeper, but is that just going to clog your hand up in a way? Because you're most likely, when you drop that down, you're just going to buff your opponent's minions. Would you rather just choose a wrong card there, as opposed to just picking a correct card that might just clog your hand up?
It's something to think about. I think if you take the time, it's probably a thought But in the moment, I'm sure you're just gonna take it. As soon as you see it, you always want to win the glimmer route. You don't want to feel like a loser and be like, "Oh, geez, I picked the wrong one."
New biography from Andy Rogers. Win the glimmer route.
That's like the whole goal. You're like, I got to win. Especially when you play arena, it's like, oh, come on, gotta win the glimmer route.
And now it looks like Jimphilos is going to try and get a little bit of value out of his first light fuse Stegodon. Going to drop it down. Wind Fury, summon some plants. +3 attack comes down. So now, just like that, 4 attack minions on the board for Jimphilos. There is plenty of pressure on there.
The Dustbreaker, and that is a board clear.
That is a board clear. A fortunate pull. Top deck right there, but instead, look at this.
No, that's the board clear. Okay. That's part of the board clear. He just sequenced it differently than what we normally probably would have done, which is play the Dustbreaker first and then.
Well, it's a smart play to get the Divine Shield off. Go for the complete board clear that way. Interesting that he decided that maybe I wasn't going to get a lot more value out of my Potion of Madness, so I'm just going to use it right now, get it out of the way, and call it good. Now the Vine Cleaver sitting in hand, just staring Jimphilos down, saying, let's make a bunch of 1/1s, but if he uses this and takes out the Duskbreaker, not a big board for Jimphilos right now, and he's already down to 15 health. At what point does Cody just decide, hey, I'm going to take this over, I'm going to become the beatdown?
Well, as a priest, you don't play burst. So as a paladin, unless he has the mana or unless he has the power on the board to kill you, you're not really worried about dying anytime soon. It's not like he's going to throw down Leroy Jenkins. And he knows it's not an inner fire combo priest, so he's not worried of, divine shield, inner fire nonsense shenanigans. You just have to keep playing and keep going down. You really, as a beatdown, your life total doesn't mean anything. Until it's 0, you've got to keep fighting to the face.
So now we have reached turn 9, and not a lot to show for the Paladin, but we do see a Call to Arms come into the hand. We do see Sunkeeper Terran, which can neutralize this 6/6. There's opportunities for Jimphilos to try and swing the game his way. It looks like he wants to build up a bunch of 1/1s, maybe Hero Power, drop Sunkeeper, and hope that it's not cleared out by a Duskbreaker.
Yeah, you already saw one. It's probably the best time as any to try and go down, drop another one. You probably just go face with the 3/3. I guess you could trade either one. It's neither a bad play. I guess if you trade, then the second Dustbreaker doesn't kill your Skykeeper. So you would live, like the Skykeeper would live through the Dustbreaker.
Yeah, you got to think, though, that your opponent would probably make that trade for you in some way, shape, or form. So, I think I would have liked to have seen Jimphilos just go straight for the face at that one. He's got to start putting the clock on his opponent at some point, because the longer this game goes, the more favored the Priest is going to be.
Yeah, and we see that Cody does not have a good answer in this situation. He's going to try to steal, so he steals 2-1. But you're going to see another Lightforge Stegodon go down, which is going to bust up these two. So it's actually probably a good play.
What an amazing turn from Cody there. I'm going to steal your best minion. I'm going to hit one of your minions, take no damage from it, and leave you with just sadness is all you're left with after this. Now, still opportunities here. This Lightfuse Stegodon is going to buff some 3/3s if it comes down right now, and even a couple of 1/1s if he attacks with this weapon as well. Call to Arms can come down as well. That weapon can summon a couple more Silverhand recruits, so this really seems like Jimphilos' last stand. He's going to equip the Champion's
I wonder
Maul.
if you play... See, I would like to see the Call to Arms, hoping that you grab your Knife Juggler, and then you can get a whole bunch of juggles off of it. I guess he's going to go for the Stegodon play here.
I will defend the Stegodon play here for the fact that, again, you haven't pulled a lot of your small minions. There's still there's two Righteous Protectors, a couple Direwolf Alphas, the Drygolt's Jailer is in there as well, both of the Knife Jugglers. This Call to Arms, usually at this point of the game, Call to Arms has nothing left to pull. But Call to Arms actually has a bunch left to pull, so why not use up the rest of your resources, give yourself a chance to have a really good Divine Favor after you Call to Arms next turn after that.
He goes with the health. And there's a bit of a misplay there, I think, because he traded in one of his 3/3 dudes into Skykeeper before playing the Stegodon, versus if he would have Stegodon first, so if he would have played out his minions and then Stegodon with the 3/3, he would have possibly gotten something like, yeah, the +3 health, which would have saved that, the 3 attack dude. So a little bit of a misplay there.
Yeah, it was a very interesting. I think he was kind of caught between two choices, and by the time he made a couple moves, he kind of changed his decisions a little bit. And really, who hasn't done that on ladder at some point?
Sure.
You know,
you're really trying to come back. You're hoping that your dudes are sticking to the board. There's a lot to be said.
And now look at this.
You're in the final. Well, he's just going to go face.
Both Stegodons come down. No level up run by Jimphilos that we know of that could have turned this into a huge pressure play right there. But now Cody decides, I'm just going to machine gun you down unless you have some way to kill me right now. And looking by what's happening here...
I think that's game. Yes. So Cody can kill him next turn just with the minions in his hand and the hero power. So this will be the second game.
Looks like Jimphilos is trying to find some way that he can just live through this right now. But as we know, Dude Paladin really runs no healing that we can speak of. There is a bunch of small minions that come out.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit too little, too late. A really unfortunate draw for Jimphilos. And after this, Cody is going to go up 2-0 in the first game of the Sylvanas League Finals as soon as he machine guns down his opponent.
Yeah, good old, we thought Shadow Reaper Anduin was in the graveyard, but he makes his appearance here in the finals.
Look at that. Insult to injury. Just throw the Shadow Word Horror. Hope your opponent concedes.
Oh, no, yeah, he can win. If he does it right. Oh, no, he messed up. He made misplay.
Misplay. Missed lethal, but I don't think it's going to matter at this point. When Stand Against Darkness and Lost in the Jungle and Rallying Blade come down, you're still just going to die in 2 hits.
He plays, Ragnaros the Light Lord.
Never punished.
And then he, of course, then it will hit the dude anyway.
Yeah, right. The surprise tech of Ragnaros Light Lord. He throws an 8/8 into his dude Paladin.
Oh, God.
What a god!
Divine favor.
Favor.
What's the blessing? Oh my God.
Blessing of Kings blessing of I know what you're talking about.
The 8 mana one.
Heal 8, draw 3. Yeah.
Nobody plays that anymore.
No
That
one
used to be
plays it.
like the best card.
So Cody just hoping to all hell that Cody just has nothing but 10 mana cards in his hand.
Knows he's dead. There's no other play. But he will get it off here. So yeah, 1 turn too late, but there's the Dustbreaker. So that will be game number 2. And if you're Jimphilos, you felt unconfident in bringing your mage into this, and now you have to play the deck that you're least confident going up against this Dragon Priest. So
is there any form of mage that can be favored or just take the game against Control Priest? Obviously, if you have a secret mage, a very burn focused mage that gets a Lunith in its hand and a good opener, you can beat just about anything under the sun. But is there other formats? Is there some way a big spell mage or even some random Kazakus mage or something can pull off a win against a Control Priest?
Big spell mage can. If it's played out right, especially if you can get Jaina early, it can be very good because the priest, big spell mage has more endgame than the priest necessarily, than the control dragon priest necessarily does. Like, it kind of relies on drawing into those big dragons, but it doesn't play any of those big dragons. And it kind of can steal cards, so you can sort of, like, if you get ahead, you can control things with Big Spell Mage, but we do see that it is definitely Secrets Mage, based on the mulligan that he has in his hand. So we will not be seeing the Big Spell Mage today.
So already, Jimphilos, we see, a Lunith in the opening hand. That's exactly what you want to see if you are a Secret Mage. At the mean point, Cody gets a Potion of Madness. The Elise Trailblazer, not really what you want to see against an aggro deck, but if he can find a dragon in his first turn, that Nether Spite Historian can get you some value, and that Twilight Acolyte is really good at neutralizing something like a Kirin Tor Mage or even a Cabal Crystal Runner.
The one really good thing for Jimphilos is that he has the coin, so he knows that his counterspell is not going to get burned by the coin, which is always the most frustrating thing if you're a Secrets Mage. That's going to be pretty big for him. It means that it's going to either burn this Potion of Madness or some other spell. If it burns something like a Shadow Word Horror, that's really big.
He coins out the Arcanologist on 1, obviously to maybe have the opportunity to kill off this Northshire Cleric, but would you think that maybe he would have rather... would he consider the possibility of saving that coin for something like a Kirin Tor Mage into a counterspell afterwards?
Probably would have been my play, but it's not too bad. He does go with the Frostbolts instead of the ping trade. I might have gone ping trade. I like to keep my burn spells, but it's not too bad. So he's still in a good position because he can play it now. It just means that he's kind of one turn behind, but he's still looking pretty good. Dustbreaker, though, is a big pickup for Cody because it will be able to clear this board off.
A huge top deck from Cody. The Dustbreaker is one of the most important cards that you can have against a Secret Mage because Secret Mage just has so many 3 health minions that are very important to the deck. Everything from Mana Worm to Kirin Tor Mage to Arcanologist. So, Cody considering just stealing the attack of the Kirin Tor Mage, but you got to think there's great value in this Dustbreaker.
Yeah, and Secrets Mage is not flood deck. It doesn't play a whole bunch of minions, so anytime that you can kill 2 minions with 1 Dustbreaker, that's pretty good.
And now the Explosive Ruins comes down, but all spells for Jimphilos, he cannot develop any more minions. This is going to be an amazingly slow turn for a Secret Mage, knowing that you need to put pressure on your opponent as soon as possible.
Yeah, the one consolation is that he does have Alaneth, and that's really the difference in a lot of games. It can just draw you that extra gas that you need to win.
But Alaneth doesn't do a lot for you when you're staring down 5 damage every turn with your slow turns, and Jimphilos doesn't have much to play on 5.
Ice blocks. You got ice blocks.
You got that ice block. Yeah, it can buy you 1 turn, but you really need to start thinking about ways you can do more turns after that. So Mana Worm Ice Block can come down here just to develop a little bit of tempo and give yourself some defensive tools, knowing that you're going to drop a Lunas, so really you want to start emptying your hand in a way. But he just throws down the Ice Block at this point. Does he really think that he can get this Mana Worm on board without any threats to take it out?
Yeah, I guess, you don't want to go for the obvious trade. The problem, though, is that it's going to save you 5 health. Every turn that you take 5 damage to the face is another turn more less that you have with that ice block up. So yeah, I probably would have you just play it because it's going to get killed, but it's worth it. It's going to buy you those turns with Alunet that you need to win the game.
And now we look and see at least the Trailblazer. Smokes out the possibility of another Explosive Ruins, which comes into hand for Jimphilos right now. So he can drop a Lunith, but he's facing down 10 damage each time. So a few options here. Here comes the Mana Worm into Explosive Ruins, into a ping in some way. It's still not the best way you want to go. I don't like this now. You just have to play Alaneth. You just have to draw cards. That's how you're going to win this game from this position, is to outrun your opponent. And you need all the gas that you can. You need to find both of your ice blocks because they're probably... So the other ice block is probably going to get this one's probably going to get punched. You just need to find everything, and you need to get that Alaneth online as quickly as possible. Potion of Madness takes out that counterspell. Primordial Glyph, of course, stolen from Jackanoid Operative.
Ooh, Binding Heal.
Binding Heal.
Gotta be the play.
Well, there's also Mind Blast just for that extra 5 damage to rush down your opponent. You got to think, if you're Cody at this point, you're going to be putting pressure on.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. It is a consideration. I would take the Binding, though. Really, You want to. Health is the most important thing here. You know, after the Shadow Visions, he's wanting to try to draw the 12 health potion, the greater healing potion. That's really what the key is going to be. I
Holds
don't know
on to
why
the
he
Shadow
doesn't
Visions.
play. Why wouldn't you?
So Firelands Portal probably going to go into Elise here. That's a great chance for a good tempo play. See if you can get a solid minion at the other end before you go into your Alunith turn. At the same point, a few other things we can happen here. Second counter spell into a Medivh's Valet, into a ping can happen. But just seems like a good tempo play to drop this down. Gets the Earth Elemental, quite possibly the absolute best minion he could have hoped for right here.
Ooh, it's gonna get. I mean, it's gonna get neutralized here, or gonna sacrifice, play the Shadow Reaper. But I would imagine we'll see the Twilight Acolyte here.
Yeah, looking at Shadow, Twilight Acolyte can certainly neutralize the attack, but still leaves an 8 health taunt up at this point. And you know, I think maybe you hold on to your Death Knight just because you know there's a couple of Cabal Crystal Runners sitting in your opponent's hand as well.
Well, he's gonna go. Looks like he's gonna snap it. The problem is it prevents you from being able to heal after this point.
Here he goes.
Yeah, he's just gonna go for it.
Cody drops down the Death Knight. He has said to heck with healing. I have some healing potions in my deck. I'm going to start machine gunning my opponent down. And now Jimphilos, he can empty his hand at this point if he wants to. He can even, go Cabal Lackey, Counterspell, drop the Alunith, and leave himself with... now he can start the card draw engine from there.
Yeah, that's probably the best play here. Well, it looks like he's going to just play out everything. So no, well, he's going to shoot and ping an Alunith. And here comes the card draw.
He gets more card draw. There's a 0-mana Cabal Crystal Runner and a Sorcerer's Apprentice. Some pressure there, but not a lot of burn.
With these big Primordial Drakes on the other side for Cody, I don't imagine that we'll see a lot of face damage coming by the way of Jimphilos. He's going to have to burn through it. Ooh, Greater Healing Potion. That's really bad for Jimphilos. I don't see any way at this point that he's going to be able to deal 42 damage.
All the defensive tools sitting in hand for Cody right now. He might even throw the Ungoro pack and see what comes of it. Let's find out. Is it the Golden Legendary? Two Clutch Mother Zabuses right there.
Oh, can they discard each other? No, they don't discard.
I wish. Stormwatcher 4/8, sits there is pretty good. Biteweed could be pretty fun if you want to play it. Evolving Spores to adapt your minions. This is one of those, you look at that deck, it's like, hey, let's remember some cards. Remember these cards? I remember these cards. So Cabal Lackey gonna throw out a counter spell. Just another, let's empty the hand out as far as we can without going too far. Putting everything we can possibly want to in here. But just, is there any way Jimphilos can swing this game his way and win it?
3 cards for 1 mana that's pretty good, but not when you're trying to make up for 9 damage plus another 12 in the hand.
And Mana Worm, Medivh's Valet, Frostbolt, that's what you want in your opening hand. That's not what you want on turn 9.
Looks like he's considering a Clutch Mother. But, yeah, I just have to imagine Primordial Drake for the next 2 turns. Coming down.
Explosive Ruins takes up all the damage by the Primordial Drake, so none of that goes to the face of Cody. At the same point, Cody going to just throw some chip damage into this 5/3, knowing that he can probably take it out next turn, just in case his opponent takes out this 4/2 in some way, shape, or form. Firelands Portal now in the hand for Jimphilos. Lots of options for him. He can Medivh's Valet, hit the face for 5, even throw a Mana Worm on top of a Firelands Portal for a great, like a huge tempo turn, but still a lot of answers for Cody.
Yeah, I have to imagine that it's going to be the Worm, you Frostbolt, 4/2. Oh no, he's going to Medivh's Valet, yeah, and certainly we'll probably see the Firelands case here. So gets in 10 damage, and he's feeling good. He's like, oh, I just need 19 more. Ooh,
some really good high rolls from these Firelands Portals. Gets Earth Elemental, and then, of course, the Venture Co. Mercenary. Great for Arena back in the day. Pretty solid here as well. But Cody still has a bunch of healing on his side. He's got more minions, more ways to deal with stuff. But still, this is a good amount of damage on board for Jimphilos.
Yeah, I wonder if you just play the other Primordial Drake, or you just look to start stealing attack off of these minions. I mean, you can probably, there's a play where you silence the Mana Worm, you ping off the 5/1, and you take the 7 attack from the bodyguard. So then coming back at you, you have 5 damage coming back at you. 14. So you're not in death range, but you're low. You have to sort of kind of build up the board a little bit.
Yeah, but at some point you have to realize what your deck is. You're here to control everything that can possibly be controlled. You want to remove as many minions as possible. But look at this. He is going to go for that 7/4 play. He's going to silence the Mana Worm as well. A great tempo play for Cody on the back of that. And here's the thing. You basically inherently do the best type of silence against the Ventrico Mercenary. You take its 7 attack away, and now your opponent's minions cost 3 more than they should. I mean, that's the best counter you can ever possibly imagine right now.
So I think that if the glyph draws Fireball, I think that's lethal.
There's a Fireball. Look at this.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
But it costs 8. Oh, because he took the Pyroblast.
No, because he would have taken the Fireball. He would have won.
He misses lethal. If I'm not correct, he does.
Way too fast. Yeah, so he would have had. Yeah. So he.
But look at all this burn now in the hand for Jimphilos. A lot of damage sitting right now. If this Evolving Spores comes in, he can pop the block in some way, but the counter spell is going to take that out. 12 more health now into the hand. For Cody, he's sitting at 16 now. He's got to really, really be careful here because that's a lot of burn. Jimphilos missed lethal, but he has a lot of burn in his hand right now.
He does, yeah. He does have the ability to kind of come back on this. I was rather surprising. You thought that 42 health, but the Secrets Mage is going to do it. It's going to be able to burn through it. Jimphilos does miss lethal, but he is in a good position. On the other side, so he's out of cards.
But now let's remember that the card draw is low for Jimphilos, so if his opponent gets him down to 1, fatigue will play a factor here.
Oh, yeah. So I think he has to... So on that side, so it's 8, 9, 7, 15, which is going to draw 1, 2, 3. So he's going to take 6 damage. So he lost. So, yeah, Cody has lethal coming back. Because he'll pop him off the block on this turn. Yeah, so he's got 1, 2, 6, 3 damage to 16. So he'll go down to 13. So all he has to do is put him to less than 3, and he can do that.
It's a quick pick by Jimphilos is what did him in. He had the opportunity to snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat, but he just could not spot it at this point. The ice block is going to get popped. That's going to do it. And the first game of the Sylvanas League Finals is going to go to Booty Sweat.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jimphilos, I think he'll look back and realize that he picked a little too quickly because, yeah, he had the lethal if he would have sat and picked it. But, when you're tilted and you're down, sometimes you're trying to think, well, what's the best play to make? And you don't take the time to think out all of your options. But, it's a great play by Cody. It's part of the reason why I don't like last year's standing is because he gets the win in the mirror matchup, and it snowballs from there. And, Jimphilos was never able to really recover well enough. He had a chance to win. He missed the opportunity to do it with his mage. But, that's just how it goes. So congrats to Cody. Great plays all around. Made the right choices that got him the win in the end.
And there's two things about that. Jimphilos, he had the lethal, and obviously he missed it because he made the pick a little bit too quickly. I've heard Ridiculous Hat on his Coin Concede podcast talk about who hasn't really, especially when you're playing ladder, you're just in the heat of the moment. How many times have we made a choice, made a play in a Hearthstone match, and then the second we make that play, we go, oh my God, why didn't I just take that extra 5, 10, 15 seconds to really think about what's going to happen here? How many times have we made a play and immediately regretted it, right?
Oh man, I mean that's happened to me many times. And it happened. Well, it happened to my benefit in the season 2 championships when Super Explosive Sheep miscounted my damage and conceded before the turn, and just like he didn't realize I didn't have lethal on board. He thought that I did, and he just conceded. And I was like, oh, wow! I just won the game. I didn't realize that, but yeah, we all, it's a big pressure. You're playing in the final. Sure, for both players, this is probably the biggest game that they've ever played. There's so much riding on it. And when you get down in those positions, you're not thinking, you're not making the correct plays, and it's part of just you need to take the time to think it out. But good on Cody. He knew what to bring. This Dragon Priest deck, it really performed, and congrats to him.
And I'll make a comment to the fact I know you don't like the last Hero Standing format. That is
not my favorite. I was really happy.
You made that very clear, my friend. But I will say this: had Jimphilos found the lethal there, then all of a sudden your opponent's not going to play Paladin. Their priest is out of the way. And then you have a Warlock sitting in your opponent's hand, which you were probably favored against. And then you have a Mage, which is possibly a mirror match, at least a 50-50, if not possibly favored if they're playing some other different Mage deck there. So had he found the lethal there was definitely the potential for a reverse sweep, in my opinion.
Yeah, on the books it could have happened. I mean, go 50-50. Probably the play that you take. I mean, the Warlock, depending on what type of Warlock it is, if it's the more control-y Warlock, it's got a lot of heals, and it can kind of sometimes can outlast the Mage. On the other side, if it's Q-Block, it could just get burned out. I mean, Q-Block can just win games straight up because it plays things like Mountain Giant, and playing a Mountain Giant, then opponent doesn't answer it, you Faceless Manipulator that Mountain Giant. That's a lot of damage coming at you. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It could have come back on him.
Well, regardless, possibly the biggest thing about this matchup is that between these 2 4 seeds in this gigantic battle for the Sylvanas League Finals, the fact that Jimphilos wasn't able to get a single point for his opponent. So right now, a big 4-0 lead for Booty Sweat.
So big. So big.
So big. That booty so big.
I mean, they're going to be such an advantage that they could even lose 3 games, but if they lose in 3-2, they could still win the championship because of the 4-0.
So an absolutely huge matchup in the 4 seeds goes to Booty Sweat. They get the first shots across the bow. We're going up 4-0 to start off this finals. Of course, there are 4 more matches in this Sylvanas League Finals, and every single one of them are going to be streamed here at twitch.tv/Team Hearth League. So make sure to stay tuned for all of the streams that we'll have. We'll even have special Sunday streams. So obviously, Friday Night Fight going to have some great Ragnaros League playoff matches there if we get that rolling. Salty Saturday is going to have a couple of really awesome Sylvanas League matches, and we'll even have some Sunday matches for you. Sunday. Hopefully some decider matches to find out who is going to win the Sylvanas League Finals. Booty Sweat off to a great start, but there are still 4 more games to play. So that is going to do it for us so far. Mr. Andy Rogers, where can people find you on the internet if they were looking for you?
Oh my gosh. You can always find me on Hearthstone at Andy Rogers 1241. I guess I'm also on Discord. I don't have a Twitter, but I suppose I should get a Twitter. But yeah, that's how you can reach me.
Well, it was fantastic casting with you, sir. It's always a pleasure to deal with someone who has been with the league for quite so many years with so much knowledge about all of the formats, all the styles of the league. Even if it's just for the memes, it's always fun to cast with you, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to cast with you too.
Absolutely. Of course, my name is Brasky. You can find me at Brasky1142 on Twitter. You can find me at twitch.tv/Brasky1142. And if you're looking for everything that is Team Hearth League, you can, of course, find us casting every weekend from Thursday through Saturday at twitch.tv/Team Hearth League. You can follow us on Twitter at THL_HS. You can search Facebook for Team Hearth League, and of course, just go to the website, teamhearthleague.com, to find out everything you can about this wonderful, wonderful format and this great community. So that will do it for us. He is Andy Rogers. My name is Brasky. We will see you all on Friday.